Well, hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to Conversations with Career Coaches, a new initiative on the part of the St. Matthias Employment Ministry here in Somerset, New Jersey. And I'm very pleased to welcome my guest for the month of December, Alex Freund. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know how busy you are these days with clients you're working with, so I'm pleased you were able to carve out a little time for us. Known as the landing expert, Alex helps his clients improve their interview performance by removing fear so that they can be confident during the process and land the job that they're looking for. Alex has been in business as the landing expert for over 15 years. And during that time, he's helped over 1,200 clients on all levels in all industries. In addition to his coaching work, Alex is a very active volunteer supporting a number of job search networking groups where he is an occasional presenter. I've seen Alex present several times on topics like interviewing, resumes, LinkedIn, value proposition, personal branding, personal marketing, and I'm sure many other things as well. Let me let this next person in who's in the waiting room. So Alex, with that little introduction, anything else you'd like to tell the audience about yourself?
Well, I very much welcome, the introduction, but I have to tell you, I'm disappointed by the fact that you didn't tell me that you're surprised, pleasantly surprised that I sit in my home office with my jacket. And let me tell you why I do that. That's a part of the delivery. I'm going to talk to the audience about the interview. A big part of the interview is the visual part, what people see.
Exactly.
And I wanted to show up for this interview so that you remember me in the most positive way. By the way, I could have been in a sweater, I could have been in sweats, but this is an interview. I need to look at my best.
I totally agree. And someone once said 80% of success is showing up, and how you show up is very important. Well, Alex and I planned this session a little bit a few weeks ago. And one of the things we agreed upon is that we're going to keep the whole thing to about a half an hour. And so I have 3 questions I want to ask Alex, and I want to leave time for questions that you, the audience listening in, might want to ask Alex. So I'm going to start off with my 3 questions that I'll give to Alex in a moment. But I want to encourage you to open up the chat box on your end and just type in a question you want to ask Alex. And I'm going to do my best following the 3 questions I'm going to start with to get to a few of your questions as well. Keep in mind that this session is being recorded and will be published in a couple of days on the Conversations with Career Coaches channel on YouTube. Alex, the 3 questions I want to ask you are as follows. What do you see as the biggest barrier to job seekers getting back to employment these days? Second, what's the best way to prepare for a job interview? And third, people will often say to you and me in the work that we do, I've interviewed a number of times, but the job is always going to someone else. Why is that? And what is the key to landing the offer? Alex, I'm going to post those 3 questions over in the chat in case you need to see them again. But if you forget any of them,
yeah, I'm not going to look. I need to pay attention, to my screen, so I don't have a chance to really look at the chat. But
leave it to me.
Okay, I think the first question that you asked was, what is the biggest challenge that the interviewer is facing? Oh my God, this is an excellent question. I'll tell you why. People are facing a situation that the biggest challenge is they don't know what they are supposed to know. You see, several times in our career, unfortunately, we fall into this situation that we are in transition. And people get shocked. And at that point, it's a new leaf in their life, something that they've only heard about others falling in transition. But when it's them, it is something, a revelation, it's something new, it's a shock. The biggest barrier that I see when I work with my clients is that they are like deer in the headlights. They just don't know what to do. Alex, what should I do? So I try to explain to them first, you need to have marketing material. You are a product that needs to be picked up by an employer because they like what they see and they need that product.
Yep.
So you're a box. I hate to call you a box, but you're a box that somebody said, I need this, and go to the cashier and pay for it. That's what you are. So you need to have your marketing material, marketing collateral, and that includes your resume, that includes your LinkedIn profile, thank you letter, cover letter, business card. You need to have your elevator pitch. You need to have your value proposition. I can go on, but you need to have that because you are now in the business of marketing a box, a product, which it happens to be you. So clearly, the number one issue that I see that people face a barrier, they don't understand this new word. What do you mean? I used to go to work and I did my work and my boss was very happy with me. What are you telling? What do I need to do? Where do I start?
Right.
That's a number one thing. Now, as a secondary issue, or probably a primary issue, is this. They are emotionally in shock.
Oh, yes.
They are utterly vulnerable.
Yep.
And a person personality changing 180 degrees. An outgoing person becomes very shy and doesn't want to talk to anyone because he or she is embarrassed by the fact that, look, I used to be a big vice president and right now I don't have a job. In America, we identify with the job that we do.
Yes.
And once you don't have that business card that says you are vice president of banking, essentially you're a nobody. And nobody likes to be a nobody.
Right, right. So overcoming that shock, that emotional aspect of job loss is definitely, I totally agree with you, Alex. That is one of the biggest barriers. And it sounds like what you're recommending is adopting a marketing mindset that is thinking about the job search process as you have a product, the product is you, and you have to go out to the marketplace and figure out how to find that person who will buy that product.
Exactly.
Beautiful, I love it. The second question I wanted to ask you, Alex, is what is the best way to prepare for a job interview these days in this particular market? And I know you're very attuned to some of the most recent challenges that are out there, but what's the best way to prepare?
Well, I want to preface my statement that this is not a solicitation for business, but best thing that you can do, work with a career coach. And if you have an interview coming up, work with that career coach to prepare you for that interview. Please remember, the interview is a competition. Let me stress that. What does it mean to be a competition? It means that it's not one opening and one candidate. That would be easy. There's one opening and multiple candidates. So the interviewer has options. The interviewer has choices. The number one question of the interviewer is, why should I hire Terry and not Mary and not Joe and not George and not Paul? That is a question that the interviewer has to answer. And until that answer is not there, they cannot make a decision. Have I answered to your question?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, Alex. So really the key thing is thinking about what it is that you, the job applicant, have to offer? What is your value proposition? Because without the ability to articulate that value proposition, you can't possibly answer that question, why should we hire you?
Exactly. But I think my point that I want to stress that, please work with a qualified coach. It's worth the money. Why? If you want to save yourself money, that's fine. But what you will end up not getting the job, because the interview is a competition. I don't like to use the word interview because I like to use the word audition on Broadway. It is like an audition. What do I want to express by that? It's a performance. It's not only what you say, but how you say it and what they see on their screen. They will remember, look, I'm a very experienced interviewer. For over 3 decades, I manage many departments, big departments. Therefore, I always interviewed people. And I can tell you, I will make a decision based on what I see and what I remember. Assume I interview 5 people and assume that takes easily 3, 4, 5 weeks, easily. At the end of the process, I have a folder on my desk that contains 5 resumes. If I take your resume, Terry, and I said, Terrence Seamon, who is this guy? Have I interviewed him? Well, I must have, because otherwise his resume wouldn't be here. It means that when I interviewed you, you did not make any impression. And that's very bad. Mm-hmm. So you want to be memorable. And let's agree to one thing. The visual memory is a long-term memory. Mm-hmm. The auditory memory is a short-term memory. So therefore, you need to create during the interview that type of impression that they can remember you visually. You smile or lack thereof, your body language, your movement. I have an expression that often I use: do not become a sculpture with moving lips. They will remember that, but in a negative way. Mm-hmm. You want to be vivid, you want to be showy, you want to be something that they will remember. Mm-hmm. Your clothing, the way you dress, your hairstyle, everything that they see on their screen, you want them to remember in a favorable way.
Alex, you're starting to venture into my third question. So let me state the question and then let you continue, because you're really going into very important territory. Sometimes you and I will hear our clients say to us, I've interviewed a number of times, but the job always goes to someone else. Why is that? What would you say, Alex, and maybe it's a continuation of what you were saying about the visuals, what's really the key thing that applicants need to remember that will really help them land that offer?
Yeah. Terry, this reminds me, several months ago, I received a phone call. Hi, Alex, my name is so-and-so. I live in Chicago. I have a PhD. I had 20 years of experience. Alex, I had 6 interviews and the job never comes to me. Alex, what's my problem? Can you help me? Yep. I mean, that's almost literally what happened. So I told him, look, I really don't know you. It's a pleasure meeting you, but based on the little information I have, this is what I can tell you. It's very likely somebody liked your resume or LinkedIn profile, and they said they need to talk to you because you seem like a good candidate. You went for that interview and you did something that was not favorable. Therefore, they selected somebody else. You are very lucky because they called you another company and you had your second interview. The likelihood is basically you have perpetuated the second time what you did the first time. Evidently, you didn't get the job. And this went on 6 times. So my conclusion with the little information that I have is it's very likely that you just made a mistake and there was nobody to give you feedback.
Mhm.
Actually, sometimes people ask me, Alex, why should I work with you? And by the way, that's a pleasure question for me to answer.
Sure.
I said, first of all, you don't need to work with me. There are hundreds of other coaches that can help you. But if we work with me, here's what I can tell you. We will practice interviewing. I'm going to ask you common interview questions. When you end, I'm going to give you my feedback and I will give you suggestion for improvement. Then you may try again, and then we move to the second question. And we do this again, and we do this again, and we do this again. And we go to many common interview questions. Your benefit, your advantage is, I will give you instant feedback. I have many years of experience, and I will be very honest with you. I will be very polite and very professional. I will never insult anyone. But if I don't like your answer, trust me, you'll hear about it loud and clear, and I will suggest for you how to do it better, or I will even demonstrate, and so forth. And by doing this again and again and again and again, you gain some confidence that actually you can do it. I'm teaching you how to be an actor on Broadway.
I love it. And that's a fantastic answer, Alex. As you were speaking, I was thinking feedback, practice, suggestions for improvement, and a positive role model, right?
Yeah,
That's
what it is.
I think you've got it right there. Alex, Jim, who's in the audience, has written a question into chat. And I want to share this question with you and see what your take is. He says, how can we differentiate ourselves from other job candidates?
Okay, that's a loaded question, Jim, and thanks for asking this question. There is not one single thing that you can differentiate yourself, but there are many components to this. First of all, let's talk about the visual. You need to properly be dressed. Second, make sure, and I assume, Jim, we are talking now about a video interview. Next, make sure your face is properly lit. Sometimes I work with people that on the right side, they have a window, and this side, the right side of the face is very, very bright. The left side of the face, I almost cannot see. Okay, so you need proper lighting. Next, you want to make sure the quality of your voice is excellent. As you can see, I'm using this earbud that I have for my iPhone. This assures me that the quality of my voice is good. I can assure you, Jim, if you interview with someone and the quality of your voice is not so good, the interviewer will not say, Jim, I cannot hear you. Jim, can you repeat? They will just say, They didn't hear what you said, but the interview keeps going. So quality of the voice is very, very important. The next thing is you want to elevate the camera to your eye level. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to put my finger on the camera. You see, the camera is at my eye level. Why? Because the way you see me on my screen is I'm looking at you. I'm not looking down. I'm not looking up. I'm looking at you. That's a good image. The next thing is make sure in your background is very neutral. As you can see behind me, I have what do you call it? A backdrop, whatever you call it. And it's neutral. I can tell you this, if I were to remove this, you would see my computer, you would see books, you need papers, you see, I want you to look at me and only at me. I don't want you to be distracted with anything else. I want you to remember me the way you see me and not the decorative candle or the flowers or something like that. I have nothing against flowers. Sometimes people look very, very professional, but I want you to pay attention to me and only to me. And that's the reason I put this backdrop here. And the last thing is identify the correct distance between you and the camera. You see, right now, I think you see me in the proper angle and the proper distance. You see, I can move back and then my face becomes very tiny, what I call a stamp on an envelope. I can come very, very close, and then your entire screen will be full with my face, and you will see all the imperfection on my face. So you want to identify the proper distance. And the last thing I want to mention is this. Turn the angle of the camera so you can show a big part of your upper body. Why? I want you to mimic, if you were to come to my office, I sit this side, you sit the other side of the desk. I'm not going to see you only this. I'm going to see you your entire upper body, whatever is above the level of the desk. And that's the reason I want to mimic that image. This is what they will remember. I see many, many times people that they come very close to the camera and all you see is their face. Not good.
Alex, great points, because nowadays, being that we're still in COVID conditions, video interviews are kind of the norm. So terrific. Thanks for adding all of that. One last question, we'll wrap things up. What, Alex, is one of the most important things job candidates ought to do after the interview?
Well, the simple answer is, again, we go back to marketing.
Yes.
The interview ended absolutely, categorically. You need to send a beautiful, beautiful thank you letter, thank you note that summarizes the key points.
Excellent. Good.
And I want to tell you, now that you asked me this question, actually, I was hired 44 years ago, I remember. I was hired in a hospital, and when I spoke with the HR lady, she said, we hired you because you were competing with another individual. Your thank you letter was so convincing, we decided to hire you. That's an actual situation.
How do you like that? That's great. That's great. Very good. Well, Alex, I want to thank you so much for taking some of your time to be with us today here on Conversations with Career Coaches. Let me ask the folks that are in the audience, if anybody's got one last question they'd like to ask you, you can type it into the chat or just unmute and vocalize your question. Anybody?
Terry, one more question, please.
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
About sending thank you notes as a follow-up.
Yes.
Is it also appropriate to send like a work sample with a thank you note if you were not asked for a work sample? How do you feel about that and your thoughts about that?
I'll tell you how I feel about it. If you are an artist, absolutely categorically, send a sample of your work, because an artist is not evaluating on his or her personality. They're evaluated on the artwork they do. So this is actually a part of what you're selling. However, if you are a computer programmer and you did something that you consider absolutely wonderful, you don't want to send the code and say, look how wonderful I am, go and read my code. So again, it kind of depends. I'm not of the opinion that you should send samples unless they are asking for it, or if you are an artist.
Alex, another question about thank you notes came into chat from Michael. Michael's asking, regarding thank you notes, what's the difference between a thank you note to the hiring manager versus a thank you note to a recruiter?
A lot is the same, but what is different, you need to address, when you talk to the hiring manager, address their problems. Yeah. Remember who the recruiter is. The recruiter is just a middleman that makes a connection between you and the hiring manager. So that needs to be kind of toned down in the sense that, the recruiter doesn't know specifics. The hiring manager does.
Mhm. Alex, some closing wisdom for anyone going on a job interview later this week?
Are you asking me what I would
Yes,
say?
by way of closing.
Yeah, I can summarize that in 3 words. Practice, practice, practice.
Wonderful, wonderful. We just have a late person showing up. Let me let him in. It's our friend Kenneth Lang.
Oh.
Kenneth, you there? Yep, yeah, there he is. His face is there. Kenneth, hey, welcome.
Welcome. Sorry I had to join late, but I had another meeting that just ended.
Understood. We're just about to wrap up, Alex and I'm wondering if you came prepared with a question that you wanted to ask him about interviewing.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna ask. Well, this actually came up in our other group, which is from the 45 and older group. A couple of people from the group are looking to work at certain places, like local, like the retailer or supermarket, and they were rejected, even though they were able to work. And the sense that they got was because of their age, or that they were quote unquote overqualified, or maybe they were afraid that these people were going to leave to do something else. So, I mean, what's the answer to something like that from the other company's perspective? I mean, people want to work. If companies are so afraid that someone's going to leave, then what's the point of saying we're hiring with a sign there?
Ken, this is a very apropos question because lately you participated in the ageism topic.
Yes.
In the last few days.
Yeah.
And my opinion is this. Unfortunately, and again, as I said earlier, before you joined us, the interview is a competition.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed many, many, many people in my career. I have options. I have choices. Age might be a factor. I always say this, Ken, you may be interviewing with me wonderfully, and I love it. But if Terry is interviewing and he's a little bit better than you, then despite the fact that you're wonderful, I will select Terry. So it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of your competition. Is your competition is a little better in the eyes of the interviewer, they will get the offer. I want to make a clear understanding what is this competition, audition, interview, whatever we want to call it. There are 2 parties that they try to evaluate and they each has a job. The interviewer has to answer to the question, why should I hire Ken? What are the reasons to hire Ken and not somebody else? And the interviewer at the end of the day has to justify the big pay that comes with Ken. And I know, Ken, you're very well paid. I know that. The candidate has to talk about the benefits that he or she is going to bring to the company, and that he and she understands that they understand what's requirement and they are de facto the solution to their problem. If you are able to understand both this relationship, that will be a very huge advantage for you.
Very good. Well, Alex, again, thank you so much for your time today. How can people find out more about you, Alex?
Landingexpert.com. That's the name of the company, www.landingexpert.com. I have a lot of information there. I'm always ready to talk to people. I'm always ready to help people. Not necessarily they need to work with me. I always say this, it's all about helping others. I said this a million times. It's all about helping others.
Amen to that. Again, thank you so much. And everybody, just a reminder, this presentation today has been recorded. In a couple of days, it will be published on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned for that announcement from me on LinkedIn and other social media. Thanks for joining us today. Everybody, be well. Enjoy the holiday.